Miami versus Indiana in the college football national championship game. Welcome into the Landon Tengwall show. I'm going to be your host as I take you through every single matchup in this one. We're going to go position by position and give you everything you need to know. I have probably watched too much all 22 tape on this one, so I was excited to put this one together for you guys. This is going to be the most unbiased, in-depth preview of the national championship that you will find. I promise you that. And directly following the game Tuesday morning, we're going to do a film breakdown. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss any of it. All right, let's start out with, let's go Miami offense versus Indiana defense. Everybody wants to talk about Indiana O versus Miami D. We're going to get to it. I know it's the exciting matchup, but it's kind of, let's talk about the grittier matchup here. So this Indiana defense, from the outside looking in, they're kind of an enigma. You look at them and it's like, how are these guys so good? You have no former 5-stars. You have no projected first round picks in the 2026 draft, yet they dominate everybody. And a big reason is it is a group of guys where everybody does their job. Everybody does their 1/11th. And while, you do have guys that make big time plays, don't get me wrong, they're so good because no one tries to be Superman. No one goes out of their way and say, I'm going to jump out of my gap and try to fit back in and just go make a big time play. It's like, no, I'm going to trust that my guy is going to be in his place. I'm going to be in my place, and we're going to play sound football, and we're going to make this TFL or get home for the sack. Now, expect Aiden Fisher. He is the middle linebacker. He runs this show, number 4, and he is always communicating. You can tell he is a film watcher. Dante Moore said that he was calling out the plays at the line of scrimmage because he is tuned in. But the reason why Fisher is the way he is because of Indiana defensive coordinator Brian Haynes. Now, I had a couple teammates from high school that played at JMU. They were two years older than me, and there was a group of 3 of them, and they all went to JMU. So I remember Sig and Haynes would always be at the school, and so I saw him a lot, and I remember getting to meet them, and they did have that kind of special aura to them, but it was still like the JMU coaches, and I'm talking to Saban and all these other guys, and I was like, there's something about those guys, and there definitely was, because they're absolutely killing it right now. But I called up a couple of those guys, and specifically 2 guys I knew that played under Haynes on that JMU defense. And I asked, what is it about Haynes? How does he operate, and why is this defense so good without, I'm not going to say without talent. There's talent everywhere on this defense. Let me tell you what, but there's not that we're going to get to him, but there's not that Reuben Bain on this defense, if you will. And he said the number one thing that Haynes does, he makes every player on the defense fill out a 6 to 8 page profile on the offense that they are facing that week. And it's every single position. It's not just defensive line, know the offensive line. It's defensive line, know the wide receivers. That's where he's at. And he said he's just a straight up film junkie. He was never not watching film in the offseason. He would make them put together cut-ups and plays of other linebackers around college football and make presentations about why the top linebackers or top, defensive ends are the top guys, and go through their pass rush moves and how all those little details. So very detail oriented is how Brian Haynes has what is probably the most sound, just disruptive defense in America. But here's the other piece of it. They are the best tackling defense also in all of college football. So the starters on the defense have an average of a 10% missed tackle rate. Anything 10% or below, by the way, for just an individual is borderline elite. I'd say if you're below 10%, you are a very good tackler. But a team across the board being at 10% is pretty insane. So you start to look through this. Cornerback, D'Angelo Ponce, 3.3% missed tackle rate. And it's not just a cornerback that's he only has 5 tackles, and that's why. No, this guy has 55 tackles at a 3.3% missed tackle rate. That's elite. That is next level. That might be one of the best tackling cornerbacks ever in college football with that percentage. Safety, Devin Boykin, 3.8% missed tackle rate. Linebacker, Elijah Hardy, 6.1% missed tackle rate. And he's the team leader in tackles, by the way. And then the other cornerback, Jamari Sharp, 8.9% missed tackle rate. And then you look at the defensive line. Ratcliffe, Landino, Tucker, Camaro, Ndukwe, all of those guys, 10% or under missed tackle rate. So, do you understand why these guys do not allow big-time plays? It's because they don't miss tackles. You generally don't get that first missed tackle that you get from other defenses that turns a routine offensive play into an explosive. Indiana just limits those plays because they bring guys down on the first tackle. Now, let's talk about the kind of the identity of this Miami passing offense. So we'll start on the passing game. Carson Beck, his average time to throw from when he catches the ball to when he releases it, 2.38 seconds. That is the quickest time of any quarterback in Power 4 football. And it's also the quickest by like more than a tenth of a second, which when you average it out over time, there's a big gap. So that's where this battle starts to get kind of interesting between Miami's offense and this Indiana defense. It's a defense that's disciplined with elite tacklers versus an offense that lives in the quick game where we're going screens, we're going quick outs, we're going hitches, we're going slants. That's how they get it done in Miami. But let's dive into the actual matchups in this one. So Carson Beck has been exactly what Miami has needed throughout this playoff run. He has been consistent. He has not turned the ball over much, and he has really been on time with his throws. If you've been watching the film breakdowns, I do, it has been impressive to me. The ball comes out before these wide receivers are getting out of their breaks. And we especially saw that against Ole Miss, that 15-play drive to end the game. He had 4 third-down conversions in that one where he trusted his wide receivers, and they made some plays. So I'm curious in this one how Miami offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson is going to scheme his passing game versus this Indiana secondary, because you got some really good wide receivers. So Keelan Marion, he's been showing up pretty big, 12 receptions in the past 2 games, and especially against Ole Miss, it felt like he was always there on third down to just move those sticks. Had a really big defensive pass interference penalty that he drew against him, and so he was the guy that Beck was really looking towards in those clutch moments. Now, Malachi Toney, the true freshman that just turned 18, he was 17 this year, still playing ball. He is everything on this offense. I don't want to minimize him and call him a gadget player because the role they have in play is a lot of gadget stuff, but don't get it twisted. He's not just a gadget guy. They're going to throw the ball all over the field to him, and they will throw it deep to him as well, but you're going to see a ton of him on jet motions, him on the wide receiver screens. They love to just find a way to get Toney the ball in space. And Shannon Dawson, listen, come here. Got a message for you, brother. If you think about giving Malachi Toney the ball at Wildcat quarterback, stop thinking, because you don't need to do that. And I'm going to be honest, any type of trick stuff against this Indiana defense probably is not going to work. So there's no need. Don't do it. I know Dawson, he's just got this itch of like, I got to put Toney at Wildcat quarterback. Don't itch it. Don't itch it. Just leave it there. It'll go away. I promise. So I don't want to see that at all. Now, Miami wide receiver C.J. Daniels, a little bit of a bigger target, 6'2". I expect some one-on-one jump balls. Listen, I know Indiana fans are going to get after me for this one, but test pounds. I mean, this is a really, really good cornerback, but maybe you can put it up and you can try to go make a play over top of him. But I don't know, at your own risk, because these are some really good cornerbacks. But that also goes for Marion too. Like Daniels and Marion, Beck loves to throw these jump ball and really back shoulder fades is something that he's going to love to do, where the wide receiver's running a streak and then he just kind of breaks it off. Beck throws that thing back shoulder and they fade away and catch it. Really, really good at that. And then one note for this Miami passing offense, Miami's biggest receiving threat in the tight end room, Lofton, is probably not going to play in this one, so that's something that Dawson has to scheme around. I don't have my tight end that I normally involve in the passing game. Now, who are they facing off against? A loaded DB room, to say the least. So safeties, Amari Farrell and Lewis Moore, they both read the field really well. It's hard to throw against these guys for a reason, and their safety room is a big part of that. And then D'Angelo Ponce at cornerback and Jamari Sharp, not only great cover corners, but we talked about this, at the beginning, best tackling cornerbacks I've seen in a long time. Talk about being physical, and especially Ponce, smaller guy, but damn, he lays a lick and he's going to come down and has great form. And because they have such great tackling in the secondary, it allows them to play a certain style of defense where really you can give a little bit of space. And that's the interesting part of this, is how much space is Indiana going to give Miami in the passing attack. So Indiana, at their core of a defense, they are zone drop. They are cover 2, cover 3. That's what you're going to see almost the entire time. And they don't allow a lot of explosives. It's, hey, we're going to give you that underneath stuff, and then we're going to come up and we're going to make tackles on this underneath stuff, and we're not going to allow that underneath stuff to turn into explosive plays. And we basically want to force you to say, hey, you can have that underneath stuff all day long, and they're gonna take it away at times, but they want you to get bored with that underneath stuff and then start to kind of make plays. And that's when the pressure and all that stuff gets home. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll get to that in a minute. So I think you look at this and you say, well, Indiana's probably going to do what they normally do, where they are going to, like I said, give some of that underneath stuff. That is also what Dante Moore thought for Oregon when he came out on the first play and threw a quick out, and it was jumped by Pons for a pick six, because that was a tendency that both teams had was, hey, Indiana's going to drop off, and Oregon likes to come out and throw those quick outs, quick hitches. And so Pons said, hey, I'm expecting this. I'm going to wait, and just jump this thing. And he did it, and it was beautiful. So naturally, if I'm Indiana, I'm coming into this game with a little bit more of an aggressive coverage plan, just because that's more than any offense in America. That's where Miami lives, is the quick passing game. And they're fine just living it in all game long. Like they won't get bored running the football and just living in those quick passes. So I think you come out right away and you don't give that to them. You make them find a different answer than the quick passing game. So then that starts to beg the question, can Carson Beck stand in the pocket and deliver, especially over the middle? And these past couple games, the answer has been yes. He's actually had some really, really nice throws, especially to Daniels over the middle on some in-breaking routes, and has been on target. Now, the problem with that, Indiana's blitz and pressure package might be the most complex blitz and pressure package that I've ever seen in college football. I mean, it's like they run it like a true NFL team. We did an entire film breakdown on that. So after this, if you want to check it out, we'll go back and find that one. Haynes in this defense, they run a ton of simulated pressure. So what that means is essentially he baits the offense into playing right into his game. So you're going to see something like where there's going to be three defenders mugged up on one side, and let's just say three defenders on the right side. The offensive line makes their calls. Hey, we're going to slide to those three guys. And then at the snap, two of those three guys are going to drop out into coverage. And then you get a safety and a linebacker flying off the left side, the opposite side. So, hey, I'm going to get your eyes distracted over here. Those guys are dropping out. And here comes the blitz, the pressure from the other side. And that's where they live. The offensive lines that they've played have struggled because you're expecting it from one angle and you get it from the other angle. And that's really a huge part of this defense, is just they create havoc. In their two playoff games, 45 pressures is how many pressures this defense has registered. And once again, this isn't with an elite defensive end. This is very different than how Miami operates. They get after them with blitzes, with pressures, with twists, with stunts. That's how they do it. Now, a couple things on this that are non-offensive lineman related. We're going to get to that in a second. So, number one, Miami needs to stay ahead of the sticks. You need to live in 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 2, because you start getting in 3rd and 7 and longer, that's when this starts to get really dangerous. You don't want to meet this Indiana front seven in 3rd and 7 or longer, because that's when Haynes starts rubbing his hands together. It gets real diabolical with those blitzes he calls up. Another part of this pass pro game, not offensive line related for Miami, Mark Fletcher Jr., who I believe is the best pass protecting running back in all of college football, has really, really good just fundamentals, always keeps a base. He's patient. He's not like other running backs that, even the good ones, they want to try to like light you up, and he'll be physical, but he understands to have patience to wait. I see him like this. He'll be standing like this in pass pro, and he just works his punch. Like, it's a thing of beauty for especially for a running back. So that's something to keep an eye on, because he is going to have to do some dirty work in this pass pro game. And then the last factor, Carson Beck and his legs in these playoff games. So against Ohio State, Beck had his most rushes of any single game this entire season. Well, and then against Ole Miss, he did the same thing. He had more rushes than he did against Ohio State. So 15 total rushing attempts in 2 games for Carson Beck, and 13 of those 15 were from scrambles, so not designed runs. 13 in 2 games just taken off. It's pretty uncharacteristic for Carson Beck, looking at the entire season. But I think it's something he's going to have to do again in this game, because let's say Indiana brings a blitz and they're looping guys, and guys on the line of scrimmage are dropping out into coverage. There can be some gaps. So I would expect he's going to go through his reads. 1, 2, not there. Boom, I'm taking off, especially when you're passing against this defense that loves to blitz. So I would expect him to take off like he has these past 2 games. He might run. He might set a new record for himself in this one. Now, let's talk O-line, D-line, and pass pro. Once again, this Indiana defensive line, there's no like world beaters on the defensive line, but still some really, really talented players. They mainly thrive off of stunts and pressure packages, and putting them, and their coach just puts them in great situations to win. So Mario Landino has really stepped up ever since you had some injuries on the interior, has 5 sacks on the year, and note that they will move him around. He might play some defensive end, especially in those pass rush packages. You will see him line up out there because he has very active hands. And then Kamara, really sneaky with his moves. Like his movement pattern is really nice and always has really good counter moves. You can just ask the Oregon left tackle who he just dropped down with that spin move. That was brutal. Never seen someone get dropped down like that. I think he got injured actually, so sorry about that. But Kamara is really, really nice on the edge. Once again, not elite defensive end, but understands how to control hands, how to work those moves, always active hands, and like I said, always has that counter move. Now, they're facing off against an offensive line that I think is really good in pass pro. Francis Mauigoa at right tackle is going to be the best offensive lineman in this 2026 NFL draft. Then you start to look across the line. Brockermeyer, I think, is one of the better pass-protecting centers in all of college football. Markel Bell at left tackle. This is a 6'9", 345-pound human being with about almost 37-inch arms. So he can touch you from over there. You better be careful if you're a defensive end. And then looking at the guard positions, you got Cooper at right guard, who has just been a constant rock for this offense. And then at left guard, you'll see a rotation between McCoy and Sampson. But it's not because that's a weakness. It's more actually they have an embarrassment of riches, and they want to play both guys. And I've seen both guys play at a very, very high level. So in terms of one-on-one pass pro, I don't have that many worries with this offensive line versus the Indiana defensive line. Perhaps Markel Bell a little bit, just because I did see him kind of fall out of the trust against Ole Miss. And when I say that, like, he didn't trust his pass protection. He didn't trust his hands. He was like just dropping this back foot and was given some really, really easy angles for the defensive end to bend the corner. I need him to trust himself a little bit more and trust that I'm a massive human being. Let me throw my hands out there and just punch this guy because I have these long arms. Use them to your advantage. But that is something to kind of keep an eye on if he continues to give a soft edge to these Indiana defensive ends. Now, the main fight for this offensive line has been picking up some blitzes. And that's really been the only struggle that I've seen on tape for this offensive line, especially against Ole Miss, was just passing off these stunts and recognizing when it is a stunt and saying, off, and passing guys off it. It's not easy to do, but that is the one place where at times I see them have some faults. So this blitz pickup game for them, I mean, they're about to get the test of a century, and we're going to see what they are about. All right, let's talk run game. So Miami, they butter their bread by physically imposing their will, and we're just going to just run duo, and we're going to jam it down your throat. Pause. And they've done it in every single playoff game up to this point, where Mark Fletcher Jr. just gets going, and you don't stop them. And really, that's both offenses in this one. They want to grind you into the ground and just out-physical you. So it's going to get physical. What else would we want in a college football national championship game than physical football up front? I mean, come on, guys. It doesn't get much better than this. We've all heard it. The Indiana defensive line is too small, is what they say. The picture of Tyreek Tucker next to Markel Bell, and you've all already seen it. I'm sure Haynes has seen it. I'm sure he stopped himself from probably quote tweeting that one. And yes, it's factually true. This defensive line is smaller, but it's built that way for a reason. It's not because they couldn't go out and get a 325-pound defensive tackle. It's just that wouldn't really fit their defense of how they operate. So, yeah, they like to slant, move, loop. Best believe that stunts are coming with this defensive line, and they're damn good at it. So Landino and Tucker have perfected this defensive tackle stunt where one of them comes in and they'll pick off the offensive lineman that's blocking the other guy, and the guy that he sets the pick, and the other defensive tackle loops right around and finds himself back in the hole to make a no gain or a TFL tackle. And it creates issues up front for offensive linemen when you run stunts and slants in the run game, because now you're a little bit hesitant as an offensive lineman. You're thinking, am I about to get picked? Like, I'm up in this guy, pause, and I got two hands in, and I'm like, am I about to get picked off? Am I just going to get just absolutely leveled by, right in my ear hole by another defensive lineman? And then kind of same thing with just slanting right at the snap. I'm like, all right, I'm going to fire off on this thing. I'm going to fire off into this defensive lineman. But I'm like, wait a second, is he about to just slant right here and just cross my face, and I fired straight out and I'm going to miss him? So it creates some of this hesitancy that you really have to be under control if you are an offensive line going against this Indiana defensive line. And because the other piece of this too is these stunts and these slants up front is it slows down the offensive line from being able to climb up to the linebackers. And so it allows these Indiana linebackers to shoot gaps without being blocked. And because there's so much, like, I'm a guard and I'm still trying to help out my center because this guy's slanted. And before I even turn around and look, linebackers just flying in the gap. And let me tell you what, 3 dudes at linebacker for Indiana. So you got Jones, Fisher, and Hardy. I'll put this linebacker room up against anybody in America. And once again, another reason they're able to play the defense they play are because of these 3 guys. So you have elite tacklers at linebacker and in the DB room, so you're able to run this kind of chaotic defense because you trust that if you get a one-on-one with the running back, your guy's going to actually make that tackle. He's not going to miss and turn into a big-time explosive. Now, the flip side of all of this, defensive linemen moving and stunting and all that stuff can get you in some trouble. So that's what happened. Texas A&M, their defense loved to do everything that Indiana does, and this Miami offensive line capitalized on it. So they really did a great job picking up their stunts and their blitzes, and it broke some big runs for Mark Fletcher, and there were just some big cavities where there were these ginormous holes because Miami picked up the stunt. We call it creasing the stunt. You're picking everything up, you're washing it down, and you're hitting it right where the hole is. And so that's what Miami's offensive line has been good at. And that's something that Mirabal, their offensive line coach in Miami, has gotten them to understand, that it's not about firing off the ball with your head down and just trying to just kill someone off the snap. You still want to come off and be physical as all hell. Don't get me wrong, and this Miami offensive line is. But their big thing is they kind of catch the movement, meaning that, hey, if I have someone right here and he's going to cross my face, I'm not going to fight him. I'm going to take him where he wants to go. I'm going to catch the movement and just carry it with him. And I'm just going to just drive him where he's already going. It's easier to take an object that's moving one way and just move him that way faster and harder than it is to fight against him. So that's kind of their idea. Say, we're just going to catch this and just wash it all down the line. Now, the other piece of this too, Mark Fletcher Jr., Miami's running back, likes to run through an MFer's face, if you will, to quote Marshawn Lynch. Ran through Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles' face and gave him his first missed tackle all year. We've all saw that one on Twitter. He wants to truck you, bring your A game, because that shoulder's going down. I'm excited to see these linebackers and safeties, elite tacklers, versus Mark Fletcher, that is the elite tackler destroyer, if you will. So that's going to be a great one. The other piece of this run game, Miami's wide receivers, especially Daniels and Toney, love to block, man. They get dirty. I've made cut-ups of both of these guys, and you'll see them get inserted in the run game. They'll insert in the C gap and the B gap and fill in and block some safeties. It's relentless. And you also see for Toney being a small dude, man, it is impressive how much he wants to block, especially being a young, small dude. You don't normally see that. They don't normally understand it yet, and it's always like, just get me the ball. Not Malachi Toney. He's going to be a pest, like to the point where every single game I've watched in the playoffs, he gets DBs that are like shoving him after the play mad because he just wants to be a pest and just like get up and just try to just block you as much as possible. That's a wide receiver that loves to block. So a relentless rushing attack against a relentless rushing defense. Let's get it cracking, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I mean, we could not have handpicked a better matchup than this one right here. All right. Let's switch over. Indiana offense, Miami defense. One of the most efficient offenses I've seen versus one of the most dynamic defenses I've seen. Once again, guys, it doesn't get better than this. Mendoza has been stupidly accurate this year when he's slinging the football around ball placement, all playoffs long, all season long. It has been a pleasure to watch him play quarterback. There was some scout that was like, he's a 4th rounder. Some people don't deserve microphones. Let's just say that. Now, He has to see the best defensive line in college football. Honestly, I think the best defensive line that college football has seen in a while. I'm curious your take because, I've been covering college football, but I was playing college football just a couple of years ago, so I didn't get to see everything. Who's a better defensive line than this Miami defensive line in the past, let's say 10 years? I want to know. Comment that in the comment section below. I'm not fully arguing that there wasn't one. I'm just saying I want to hear from you guys. What's a defensive line that matches up against this Miami D-line? Because they're serious. In Miami's 3 playoff games, this defensive line / safeties and linebackers, they blitz them, generated 76 pressures on the quarterback in 3 games. That is unheard of. That's scary. Listen, if I'm an offensive coordinator, I see that, I'm saying, what? We got to find a way to slow these guys down. Bain, Akeem Mesidor, the defensive ends, a deep bag of pass rush moves, let me tell you what. And my biggest worry for these Indiana offensive tackles is that you will see these Miami defensive ends get into these wide 9 techniques. And that forces the tackles to have to get out of their stance. And a lot of times it gets them off balance. And that's what is so difficult about the alignment that Miami's defensive line puts you in. It puts you in a pickle where we're saying, hey, we're going to make you move. And when you get to that spot where you're trying to meet my defensive end that has elite get off, by the way, you're probably going to be off balance. So you better bring it. You better be able to move. You better be able to anchor, and you better have elite hand placement. Now, Indiana left tackle Carter Smith has not allowed a sack all year and has only allowed 1 pressure in the past 5 games. My prediction is that one is probably going to change in this game a little bit. Now Smith plays with a great base, and his main thing is that his hands will get outside frequently. He'll kind of just do this, hook technique, and he'll get on the shoulder pads, and it could be classified as holding, some of the time. I worry about him getting out of position against these defensive ends, where, just like I was talking about, where he has to just move and get out of his stance, and he's not the most athletic guy. That's where I start to worry. He plays a lot better when he gets to play within his framework, when he has a tight defensive end where he can just upright and he can just get paws on you, and he's a strong guy that plays, like I said, good base. But when you start making him move like these defensive ends do, that's where I have a little bit of worry. And really, my biggest advice to these offensive tackles, having studied these defensive ends relentlessly, you got to jump set them. You got to get on top of these defensive ends and just get on them now. Because if you let them build up ahead of steam, they have great counter moves, they have great initial moves, and they have a great get off. So stop them before they get going. So right now, right tackle for Indiana is a little bit of a question mark. Benson and Ajani have both played at right tackle throughout the playoffs. I think it should be Ajani in this one that's going to play, because Benson is great in the run game, but I just don't think Benson's able to move like he should, like he's going to have to versus these defensive ends. Ajani has a lot better footwork and he's a lot quicker out of his stance. Benson, if he's out there, there's just going to be times where these defensive ends are literally going to be able to run past him. So that's why I have some worries there. I really don't love either option. I mean, any offensive tackles, I don't favor against these defensive ends, but especially right tackle for Indiana. I have a little bit of worries there, and we will get in a second. We're going to get into how you slow that down by helping out your tackles. But the other thing to expect from these Miami defensive ends, and really the alignment of the D-line, they are going to get in a wide 9 technique, and then the defensive tackles are going to be in a 4-eye. And they want to space you out, like I said, make you have to move. Even the guards, when you put someone in a 4-eye, that's a wider defensive tackle than I'm ever used to going against. And so you're making the guards play in space when guards are not used to playing in space. Now, the other piece of this to look out for is sometimes you'll see Bain and Mesidor on the same side. Sometimes you'll see either of them playing that defensive tackle, that 4-eye, and they're trying to get matchups against the guard. So one thing I'd look for is they're going to try to put Bain, Mesidor against Indiana right guard Bray Lynch, who his movement at time in the passing game and his anchor has been rough. I think I would call him maybe a piece of, not really as much the run game, but the passing game is a little bit of a weak link there. And it's really that entire right side in the pass pro game is where Indiana has had, some struggles. And then one other thing to look out for if you're this Indiana offensive line, Miami safety, Keontae Scott. He's going to get blitzed off the edge. They're going to send him, listen, if I'm Mendoza, find him pre-snap every play, because Trinidad Chambliss was getting licked by Keontae Scott. And they were sending him early and often on blitzes. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Now, on the interior at defensive tackle, you got Blay, you got Scott, you got Moten. All fantastic with their hands. Really, really good job developing them. Shout out to the defensive tackle coach at Miami, has just been balling out. And especially looking at Justin Scott, who has been really rushing the passer very well, especially these past couple weeks, has smooth hands, really good hips on the inside. So it's not only a test for these offensive tackles or these defensive ends. Pat Coogan and company, this interior of the Indiana offensive line, they're going to get a test of their own. So Mendoza and company going up against some world beaters on defense. How do you combat this? Well, you got a few things. So first thing is, Mendoza, his most underrated trait is his legs. He's got over 35 rushing yards in both playoff games that he has played in. If he sees a hole, he's going to find a way to take off and go get some yards. And then the other piece is, like, he is really good at understanding when the play is dead, and he's not going to try to make something out of nothing. Similar to how I was talking about the defense, if they just don't make mistakes. It's the same thing with Mendoza. It's like, I'm not going to be Superman. If the play's not there, I'll throw the football away. So that's something to note. Like, you're going to see him throw the football away against this Miami defense, because if it's not there quick, you better get rid of it. And you want to, similar to the Miami offense, like if you're the Indiana offense, you also can't afford to get in third and long. I think you have a little bit more, you have a much better ability to get yourself out of that hole. But I don't want to be facing this defensive line on third and long. That's something that I do not want. But how do you help out your offensive line? So number one, the running backs are going to have to stay in pass protection. I think, honestly, Black has done a really good job in pass pro, especially in the Alabama game where they were sending some blitzes. He looked like he has a great understanding of leverage, hand placement, all of that. So I think that's someone you need to keep in there. And then because these offensive tackles need a little bit more time to get out of their stance, I'm going to need some help by these tight ends. I'm going to need a chip off the line of scrimmage, whether that's a tight end attached on the formation, or if it's a wide nine, the tight end might be kind of standing up almost in the slot, so to speak, and he's just going to lean out and try to, put a shoulder into Bain or Mesidor and just slow them down a little bit. Now, something to note here is Mendoza, his average time to pass this year, 2.7 seconds, which is, leaning towards the longer side. I'd say like average is anywhere from 2.5 to 2.6 seconds. So leaning on the longer side, but nothing too crazy. I would expect him to be under 2.7 seconds time to throw in this one. But let's talk overall passing scheme by Indiana. They're going to drill you with RPO. It is going to be run pass option. If Mendoza is about to hand that ball off and he looks out and he sees off coverage, boy, that thing is getting pulled every time, and he is going to throw that quick slant, that quick out, that hitch. He wants to attack on the outside. They are big time outside the numbers passing team. And that's where you start to see him take some shots too, especially back shoulder throws to Elijah Surratt. It's like magic, and he catches everything. Surratt has a 3.7% career drop rate, which is really good. That means he don't drop the football at all. And you saw it in the Oregon game. It was just like he throwing these back shoulders where there's perfect coverage, but the ball placement's perfect and the ability to catch the ball is elite, and they still convert. And so that's what's annoying about this Indiana offense is they do all the little things so well, and they just execute. You got Omar Cooper Jr. in the slot. He is going to be dynamic. You got to keep eyes on him at all time. And then the emergence of 6'5", Charlie Becker out at wide receiver. That has been something, and it's kind of opened up a new fold of this offense that, you could always hit Elijah Surratt over the top and give him a jump ball, but this is kind of different. Becker is like a true jump ball target that'll go up and just track it. You can just leave it high. You can leave it at 11 feet for him. Guess what? He's going to go up on that deep post, high and over the middle, and he's coming down with that thing. So that's kind of the real test for these DBs is, are you going to be able to match up against three really, really good wide receivers? Now, they had their question in the Ohio State game. It was like, you guys are just going to get smoked by these two NFL first-round wide receivers. And outside of really one deep pass to Jeremiah Smith, it was damn good for those Miami DBs. They did a really, really good job. So you're missing one of your starting cornerbacks, Xavier Lucas, for the first half because you get a targeting penalty against Ole Miss in the second half. That's also ridiculous. We got to get rid of that rule. That is so outdated. Like, why are we kicking players out of the game for playing hard? If you want to throw a penalty, do your thing. But man, don't kick them out. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. So I don't like the ejection stuff. And then you're looking at Damari Brown as one of your starting cornerbacks this year. It looks like he is not probably going to play in this one. So I look and I think O'Connor has actually been playing really, really well. He's been playing good football on the outside at cornerback. And then obviously Keontae Scott at nickel cornerback. I think he's the best nickel cornerback in all of college football. And he is dynamic. They're going to send him on blitzes. They're going to move him around. He is going to be tasked with trying to mess with Mendoza's head. And then also, I give a shout out to Bryce Fitzgerald, who's been playing some really, really good ball at safety and gets anywhere from 20 to 25 snaps. But as a young guy, a freshman, has been making a really big impact in that Miami secondary. So, a room that has been tested, and they're facing a lethal passing attack that has playmakers on the outside. I think what's kind of curious here to me is, are they going to do something similar that they did to Ohio State, where Julian Sayin, similar to Mendoza, loved those RPOs. If they saw anything outside of the numbers that was off coverage, they took that. Well, he tried to do that. Julian Sayin did against this Indiana team in the Big Ten championship, and he tried to do it against Miami too, and Miami took that away. Miami's cornerbacks, they were pressed up. They did not allow Carnell Tate or Jeremiah Smith to even breathe. And so now I'm questioning, how tightly are they going to play these IU wide receivers? Are they going to be pressed up? You also got to be careful, because you press up on Charlie Becker, he's got some speed and some long strides. So how much room are you going to give them? And especially if you have a younger cornerback out there, because you got injuries and you got guys moving around and you're missing someone for the first half. Well, like I said, there's that risk reward. Are you going to play that high risk press man coverage, or really Miami plays a lot of zone, but are you going to be pressed up on them and not give them a lot of space, where you're risking they might beat you over the top, but do I want to give them that quick underneath stuff, because I know they're going to take it like clockwork, because that's just what this Indiana offense does. All right, let's talk run game here. Indiana has let Black and Hemby just run wild all year long. 50 rushing attempts against Alabama in that one, where Pat Coogan, the center, got the Rose Bowl MVP. I thought that was fantastic. And that's the identity of this Indiana offense, is we are going to grind you down, and then we'll take our shots over the top. And so I think that's kind of maybe a misconception. Some people think it's just this like crazy passing offense. They're going to run inside zone, and they're going to just try to grind you down. And like I said, they're going to take their shots where they find them, but they're going to try to just run the football and be physical. They want to get vertical. They run a lot of duo, which is just straight up the middle. Now, one note, when they are running a lot of this duo technique, it's duo run game, you're going to see these running backs. They will go up the middle. They're going to press, and they'll start to kind of suck the defense in, and then boom, one cut, and they're trying to get outside. So if I'm this Miami defense, if I'm defensive ends, if I'm safeties, if I'm cornerbacks, be aware, get ready for this run to get bounced outside really, really quickly. But you're going to see there's really just perimeter tackling be something that is very important in this game. And their rushing attack is, hey, we're going to grind you away for 4, 5, 6 yards a pop, and we're going to find those 15 to 20-yard runs every once in a while. And that's the world that this Miami rushing attack lives in. We want to go to 4 or 5 yards per carry and just take it to you all day long. Now, you also will see some outside zone, some pin and pull scheme where they're going to try to get to the corner. So Mo Torre, Wesley at linebacker, you're going to have to go out there and meet these offensive linemen. Pat Coogan is a very, very good puller at the center position. And then Drew Evans at left guard as well. Incredibly physical on the interior. So you got some really good interior linemen there for Indiana. Let's see if you can meet them, take on those blocks, and make some tackles. Keep those routine plays to be routine and not make them explosive. Now, one of the best parts about Miami's rushing defense is Ruben Bain, and this is what makes him so elite. It's not just the pass rush, it's the fact he can hold any edge. He is so good at holding contain and making sure he's not going to give up contain and allow anything outside. So I think that's something to be on the lookout for, is can you find ways to box Ruben Bain in and make him play inside so you can find a way to get outside on his side. Now, another piece for Miami in this run game is a healthy Ahmad Moten. So this is a guy that really hurt his ankle in the Ohio State game. I think it was the third quarter. played 18 snaps against Ole Miss. You could tell right away he was not even close to 100%. No one is 100% at this point in the season. You best believe that everybody is messed up. But he was hurting. He couldn't put much weight on that ankle. So I'm curious with a more than a week off, how healthy is he? And can he return back to normal form for himself? Because a big part of that defense is he was one of the defensive tackles that could just hold it down on the inside. He could put two hands in. He could take on a double team and just hold down his gap. And I think you missed some of that. If you saw the big run for Kewan Lacey, Ole Miss, where they took off for like 70 yards, it was because, guess what? Moton wasn't in. I think it was Blay just got hit, and they just bounced the defensive tackle Blay all the way over, one gap over, and there was a huge hole. And I was sitting there thinking, man, if that was Ahmad Moton, I don't think you're moving him out of the way like you just did to David Blay. So that's something big. Are you able to keep him in there, and how many snaps can he play? Is that ankle still hurt? Because he is a big part of them being able to kind of shore up that run defense. But in this run game matchup, it is going to be huge to keep Indiana in 2nd and 3rd and long. Don't let them live in 2nd and 4, because that's where they have lived all year, and that's why they don't make a lot of mistakes. They stay on schedule. They do not get in those 3rd and longs, and they just execute. So find ways to get them in positions where you can just release your pass rush and make them sit back there, make Mendoza hold the football, and then try to get home on him. But overall, this is going to be a physical battle up front on both sides of the football. The most excited I've been for any matchup this year, and not just because it's the national championship, because these are two teams that are incredibly well coached, that are extremely physical up front on both sides of the football. And on everywhere, on the outside, exterior, all of it, there is just playmakers to go around. It is going to be a fantastic matchup. We will have a film breakdown on Tuesday following the game, so make sure you guys tune into that one. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.